So this is a story of 4 emotions, 1 failure, and 1 murder. The failure played itself out over a short period of time. The murder in a split second. But the emotions, those played out over 20 years. And it wasn't until I wrote about them twice in 2 books that I finally came to closure. So I'm in media. I've been in media my whole career. I've been on startup teams of HBO and CNBC and most recently HGTV, where I was the second employee. I love startups. Well, this failure occurred when I was 28 years old and I was working at HBO. And I'd been there about 5 years, and I was getting itchy. You know, I'm good at starting things, but I'm not good at finishing them. So I was kind of waiting for a change or looking for a change. And I got a call to work at a programming network called the Z Channel in Los Angeles. And the Z Channel was the movie lover's paradise. All movies, all the time. First run, foreign, black and white, subtitle, every kind of movie. And it was the darling of Hollywood. And the press adored it. The problem was it wasn't making any money. So I was brought in to try to help turn that around. I worked on most of the business functions, and my partner was Jerry Harvey, and he did the programming. Now, Jerry had been there from the very beginning, and you might say he and Z were the same brand. He was this eccentric programming genius that had an unbelievable grasp of films and filmmakers. And he single-handedly was the reason that Z Channel was so revered in LA. Well, we knew we had to make it bigger, and we brainstormed a lot of different ideas. Well, the new owners had access to first-run professional sports rights, like the Dodgers and the Angels and the Clippers. And we talked about that, adding sports to the movie lineup. And I thought this was a great idea. It'd be a sure way for us to broaden our audience. And we had more meetings about it, and we ran our big spreadsheets that showed how many more customers we'd gain, and it would offset the cost of the additional sports rights. And so Jerry was curiously silent through all these discussions. And frankly, I was glad. I didn't want anybody naysaying this idea because our plans B and C were pretty weak. So without asking our customers, we went ahead and did this. We added sports to the movie lineup. And that's when all hell broke loose. HBO, who had been selling us first-run movies, stopped selling them. They slapped a lawsuit on us and tried to get restraint of trade, and we had to be deposed. Jerry and I had to do depositions. So I went first, and Jerry was to go the following Monday morning. So on a sunny Saturday afternoon in Los Angeles, Jerry took out a gun and killed his wife and killed himself. After that, the Z Channel died its own slow death. The movie lovers hated the sports lovers hated the movies, except for a few blockbusters. The owners couldn't make it work, so they ended up selling it to a big media conglomerate who recreated it as a local sports channel, 24-hour sports channel. So that diamond in the rough, Z Channel, was gone. On to the emotions. First, bewilderment. Did that really happen? And how would that have played out if Jerry had brought the gun to work? Then guilt. Was I partly to blame here because I had so relentlessly pursued this idea of sports? Then anger. How could he do this to his wife, an innocent person in the path of his self-destruction? How could he do this to himself? He cratered the network by dying because that beloved brand died with him. You know, I wrote my first book in 2015, and I wrote about this incident in it. And it's so interesting because as I look back on it, I wrote something like, our small team pressed on despite Jerry. That's a lot of anger energy, especially given it was over 20 years before that it had happened. The new book that I've just written, Fully Human, I felt drawn to write about this again. But this time, I found closure. So this book is about emotional intelligence, and I spend a chapter talking about how you can drop unproductive emotions, how you can release them so that you can be successful and happy. But I never imagined that it would take the writing of 2 books for me to finally get to a place of closure and to release that bewilderment and anger and guilt. And now all I felt was deep sadness for 2 lives cut short. A failure, a business that tanked, and the collateral damage of 2 lives cut down too short. Likely, or at least partly, because of Jerry's terror over what Z Channel would become. For him, for his identity, for his place in the world. I've heard that when we feel terror, we take prisoners instead of partners. I don't know about that, but I do know that what I feel today is compassion for that 28-year-old girl who was so brave and so lost for many years of her life. Thank you.